Welcome to the first edition of the Culture Club. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing and giving you my impressions of The Martian, the gigantic space-based blockbuster, in which I think we can learn a lot about science and about action and about violence and how movies can be better in the future. But first, I want to talk about this segment. What is the Culture Club? Well, as you've probably known if you've seen my videos, I freely admit that I lack culture in a lot of ways. Specifically when it comes to music, there's so much music that I haven't listened to. When it comes to movies, I like watching movies, but almost every single classic, every important film in history that you could mention, chances are low that I've actually seen it. It applies to books as well. I've read a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy, a lot of books in general growing up, but there are so many important seminal works that I haven't read, and I know that this is hurting me on a daily basis. And I think that many of you probably feel the same about one, if not all, of those areas. And so, in the Culture Club, I am going to be attempting to make myself better by exposing myself to things that I wouldn't normally have seen, perhaps. But specifically trying to draw from these books, from these albums, from these movies, from these shows, lessons that I can learn as an individual, and that I hope that our society can learn from these pieces of art. That's the goal. And in this first instance, we're going to be talking about The Martian. Now, The Martian stars Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain and Kate Mara and a number of famous people, obviously. It was originally written as a book by Andy Weir. I've read the book as well. Adapted into a screenplay directed by Ridley Scott. Now, I say these things because while I already knew it, because I saw it and because I read the book, as I go through Culture Club, I want to learn this sort of behind-the-scenes stuff as well. Now, first of all, my overall impressions, I don't want to make you wait too long. I fucking love this movie. I fracking love this movie, I should say. It is, as many people have noted, the best movie about Mars ever released. It is one of the best space movies, grounded in reality, ever released. Perhaps one of the best sci-fi movies, I'm going to say, of the past decade. I'm not going to go too crazy. It's great. It's not the best movie ever. Now, here are some reasons that I love it. You may not have known this necessarily from the trailer, although they give some hints of this. The Martian is an incredibly funny movie. Now, it is a sci-fi movie, but it could almost be listed a comedy because the jokes are not sparse. They're peppered throughout, and they land with incredible regularity. One of the main things I disagree with in terms of Ben Mankiewicz's review of The Martian on What the Flick, which you should also watch. So it is very funny. The action is very well done. The special effects, I should say, in terms of helping to enhance the action, is extremely well done. One of the final sequences in the movie is a space sequence. I'm not going to give you too many details. It's not going to be a spoiler. But it is executed so beautifully and so flawlessly, and the weightlessness of zero-G is done so perfectly, like in Gravity, that it almost seems like it had to have happened. There's nothing that you can see to take you out of the movie, and that was awesome. The fact that Matt Damon in his performance did almost all of his scenes by himself, basically, talking into a camera like I'm doing right now, and he did it so well. I've always liked Matt Damon. He's one of my favorite actors, and this might be one of his best works. But the supporting cast is great as well. Kate Mara, Jessica Chastain, like I said, the people on the actual spaceship, there are others as well. I don't know all of their names. Why can't I remember? Jeff Bridges is great. Chiwetel Ejiofor gives an amazing performance. I mean, all around, it's simply great. It's a beautiful movie, and it's a funny movie, and it's a moving movie about human sacrifice and what we'll do to save one of our own. And so those are my impressions. I really liked it. Now, there are some things that I didn't like about it. I'll add to what I liked. They took a sequence out of the book that was absolutely dreadful, and so thankfully they got rid of that. Now, some of the things I didn't like is, for a movie and a book that is so based on reality and real science and what could actually happen in the near future, there are some things that are done in the movie that make no sense, that they don't think about the consequences of. Part of that ending action sequence, there's two things that happen. I'm not going to say what they are, but when you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. That could not work the way they say it would work. It simply wouldn't happen. And so that took me out a little bit in terms of the logic of the movie. And there wasn't enough Kate Mara. But most movies suffer from that, and so I'm not going to dock them too many points for it. But other than that, there's really nothing I didn't like about it. I've already seen it once. I'm probably going to go see it again. I was lucky enough to go see it on the Fox lot, an early screener a couple weeks before release, but I'm going to go see it again in theaters. Now, that's the review. But Culture Club is not about reviewing things. It's about learning something. And I believe that with The Martian, even though this is an area of movies, sci-fi, that I actually already enjoyed, I think that I have learned something. Now, some of this was apparent from watching it and reading it. Some of it I had to sort of digest, hear other people's impressions. And Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed out something that I can't be specific about because it would be a spoiler, but this movie, which is an action movie and a blockbuster, and it's explosions and action and stuff going wrong, it has a fundamental difference between it and every other action movie in terms of the body count. Now, I'm not going to be specific, but this movie shows that you can have an epic scope blockbuster with action and disasters, important disasters, huge things going wrong, and the stakes are so high without killing a bunch of people. Nobody gets shot in this movie. And I like action. I like explosions. I like guns in movies. I like all of that stuff. And I would have said it was relatively essential that happened in these sorts of movies. But I was wrong. And The Martian has something to show that. Now, I'm sure that you can think of other movies that this is true of, but you can make something where the stakes are so high, but you don't cheapen it with needless death, unnecessary deaths that don't actually enhance the plot. And so Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed that out, and so I'm glad about that. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about the world almost always making sense in this. Action can make sense and can be essential to the plot of a movie. And this is obviously true of books as well. Like, we're used to liking these action movies where they put in a car scene chase because there has to be a car chase, because we like that. And there has to be a fist fight, and there has to be all this stuff that isn't actually essential. And this is perhaps the greatest proof of that every disaster that happens in this movie, everything that goes wrong technologically, was important to the plot, essential to the plot, and said more about the characters and what they're willing to do than it does about explosions. And I like that, and I want to see more of that. More movies need to have the two things that I've already talked about. The last two things, and this is something that when I get into writing again, which I want to do, I'm going to have to make a part of this, is that science can be the answer to our problems. That seems like a crazy thing to say because it should be obvious, and it is obvious. In the real world, everybody understands implicitly as you look around that when it comes to energy and to medicine and to transportation, all that, science is the answer. But movies so often don't care about that. Science isn't the answer. Punching someone in the face, that's the answer. Shooting them in the stomach, that's the answer. Even if it's about scientists, and so few movies are. In this, science is the actual answer. Scientists are the answer. Force is not what's going to get the job done, but ingenuity, cleverness, knowing things, that's what's going to get the job done. And people have been calling this movie, a love letter to science, and their ode to NASA and JPL, and certainly they worked closely with those organizations. And they're right. This movie is perhaps the most pro-science movie that I've ever seen. And why don't we have more of those? Even movies about science. I think of like Jurassic Park, which I love. That is a fundamentally anti-science message. That science can't be controlled, that it's out to get you. Most of Michael Crichton's stuff is like that. And so Andy Weir did a great job in writing this, where science is the solution to our problems in a very real sense. And that's what I love. Now, also, you have to work together. That's something that they stressed in this. And not just the members of the crew of the Hermes or whatever, but other countries have to work together, even if it's not for mutual gain. Now, they didn't show in the movie, but something is going to happen with a country helping us, where in the book they actually explained sort of what they were getting out of it. But in this, it's that scientists and thinkers can work together across cultural boundaries and religious boundaries and racial boundaries and stuff like that, because they care about the solution. They care about advancing human knowledge and pushing us forward. And we don't see a lot of that in movies. We need to see more of it. And now I have this desire for it. Like, that's what I take leaving the movie theater, leaving The Martian. It's that I want to see more science, and I want to see more action that is assisting the plot rather than distracting from it. And I want to see more glorification of what is actually good about people. Not just our ability to be violent and to be brave or whatever. Bravery is not enough. I want to see us cooperating. I want to see us thinking. I want to see us caring about the right sort of people. And that's what Andy Weir did. And that's what Matt Damon did. And that's what Ridley Scott did. And the rest of the cast and crew of this. They showed that can be a thing. And it needs to be in so much more. Anyway, you should definitely go see it. These are my impressions. I want to talk with you on Twitter and in the comment section about it more. But I'm obviously a huge fan. I was waiting for the movie after reading the book. And I'm so glad that they did a good job with it. Now, in the future, in Culture Club, what am I going to be talking about? Now, I read a lot of nonsense books. I read science books as well, but I read a lot of nonsense sci-fi. I've been reading some classics recently. I'm working on Ringworld right now, and I just read The Three-Body Problem, which is an amazing, although not as good as people say it is, Chinese sci-fi book. So I'm going to be working in some of the literature, certainly. When big albums come out, this segment is going to be what makes me listen to them, because generally I don't, because generally they're crap. But I'm going to listen to them for this segment and review them and try to take something from the popular culture in terms of music. And I also have printed out the list of the top 100 AFI films of all time. Now, these are, the American Film Institute has taken and listed what they say are the top 100 films that everybody needs to see. I'm going to be working through that list. I don't know if I'll do the entirety of it, but I'm going to be working through that list. And I can only assume that after watching all of these and thinking about them and digesting them, them and learning from them, I'm hoping that I will be much improved. Now, not everybody has time to watch 100 movies, and so I'm going to be summarizing my thoughts in this segment. Hopefully, for those of you who haven't seen these movies, you can learn something as well and save a little bit of time at the same time. But if you have specific things that you think deserve a look on Culture Club that are not simply entertaining, but that there's something that we can benefit from as individuals and as a collective, as the human species, leave those down below, tweet those at me. I look forward to seeing what you have to say, and I look forward to future editions of the Culture Club.